Good morning. You're welcome to the training on the theme costing for wholesalers and retailers. My name is Fred Sezicheye, and I'll be a trainer for this session. It's a very small and brief training which will last approximately 30 minutes. It will be an interactive session, so I will explain a few of the concepts. Then we will have to discuss that. Anybody with questions or suggestions or any comments will be free to raise your hand and you'll be able to ask or make any comment. But first, just a few housekeeping rules. This training is going to be conducted in compliance with the Ministry of Health guidelines on preventing and minimizing the spread of coronavirus, which include washing your hands. I'm sure you had a chance to wash your hands when you came in. There are sanitizers everywhere. Social distancing is being observed in the way we've arranged the seating. We are all wearing masks. We will be making the exception to the person speaking will have to take off the mask and then speak, and then have it back. In case of any emergency, the assembly point is right outside here, next to the parking yard. And for washrooms, they're just as you go out, you enter in the main building, just next to the entrance on your right. So, as I said, because of the guidelines to contain the spread of coronavirus, we are trying to minimize contact. So, most of the things that I've done on a self-service basis, and where necessary, the people who prepared this had to sanitize and make sure that it's safe to do so. Give you the chance to introduce yourself to your colleagues and myself, so that we go into this session knowing each other, so that it becomes a more personal and more friendly interaction. That's that.
Thank you so much. My name is Chris Jean-Baptiste.
Hello, I go by the names of Jenny Katonjali.
Thank you. My name is Matela.
Thank you. My name is Ibaji Cesar.
And I'm Igor Benjamin.
Accent Arnaud. Thank you very much. I'm Simari.
Thank you. You've gone through various stages of this training, and this training is usually provided to people who own and run businesses and want to learn techniques and tools to help them to improve their business. So, the scope of the training today for this session, we are going to look at what costs are and what is costing, the different types of costs that exist in business. We will understand why it is important to carry out costing, proper costing in your business. And then we'll look at the steps that we would take determining the costs for your wholesale or retail business. Anybody running businesses incurs costs, or they face costs. And costs are every single penny that you spend in making and selling your goods or services. So, any money that you spend in production, producing your goods or services, delivering them to customers, is what we call as cost of business. And costing, of course, is now the process of calculating all the costs that go into making and selling the goods or providing your services to your customers. It is important to understand the concept of costing, as we'll see later. The concept of costing and being able to understand and identify all the costs, as we're going to see. I've said there are so many types of costs. But before we go to that, it's important to understand why are we specifically looking at costing for wholesalers and retailers and not the other businesses. Any volunteers? Types of businesses?
We have manufacturing businesses.
This wholesaling and retailing, like we're talking about it, the wholesales and the type of entrepreneurs that sells in bulk. Like we sell lots of things, they take the whole packet of the cartons. So the retailers give by one, they sell small by small. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other? Yes?
Service provision.
Service provision.
Those are the business that sells the service.
Costs can be different depending on the nature of the business that you are dealing in. Any examples of direct costs?
Raw materials.
Any other direct material? Yes?
Let's say labor.
Labor. Oh yes, labor. Yes, labor. We've looked at the different types of businesses. We've looked at the different types of costs and how they could be different depending on the business. We've also looked at the importance of costing. So it's time now to move into the core part of this module, which is how to determine costs for a wholesale or retail business. As somebody mentioned earlier, a wholesale business is basically somebody who buys and resell. Whether you're buying in bulk and reselling in bulk, or you're buying in bulk and sell in small quantities, the concept is that you don't produce, you just buy and sell. And costing for that is just about the same. So step number one is you identify the material cost per item. In the printouts that you have, we have a scenario that we're going to use for this session. Udasa General Stores Limited, who is a wholesaler in Kigali. Udasa deals in wholesale of 4 items. They sell rice, sugar, corn flour or maize flour, and wheat flour. And in terms of the organization and staff, Udasa is run by the owner, Mr. Munyemari. Mr. Munyemari employs 2 assistants. One is Mbaraga, who assists on the shop floor, and Miss Mukamana, who assists with all administrative work, including bookkeeping and tax. For purposes of this, of Udasa General, costing for Udasa, we'll treat all staff salaries as overheads. So, as I mentioned, step number one is to calculate the material costs per item. We work out the overhead expenses, our indirect costs for the business. The overheads are the costs that we incur in generally running the business. So what is the charge for depreciation for Udasa General? 10. Anything else? Yeah. And what is the total? 3. Okay. We need to determine now the direct cost of the materials that we sell for the month. These are overheads. But we also need to determine now the direct material costs for Udasa General. Now, as I said, Udasa only buys and sells the different items. It's rice, it's sugar, it's corn flour, and it's wheat flour. So, usually we have we have the quantity, we have the unit cost, and we have the total cost. Right? We get the total cost simply by multiplying the quantity times the unit price. So it's the reverse. It's 100, and the unit cost is
$5.
$5. So that gives a total cost of 500. For sugar, 50 is the quantity. 50 bags. Okay.
For $6.
For $6. Okay. For corn flour,
150 bags.
150 bags.
$2.
For $2. So that gives us 300. Okay. And for wheat, Wheat flour,
80 bucks
80 bucks,
at $3,
$3.
which gives us 240.
So that gives us 240. So what is the total direct material cost for Udasa?
1,340.
1,340. Okay. The direct material cost. We've determined the monthly overhead expense. We need to find a way of allocating the overheads to the individual items. We do that by calculating what we call the overhead charge. We have the monthly overhead of 355. We are going to divide it by the direct material cost. 1,340, which will give us a rate of 26%. So 26% is the overhead charge per each item of food that we are selling. Any questions so far? Any question or comments?
0.5. And then we also have one last item, which is wheat. And the quantity was? 3. So with 3 times 26%, that's 0.8. 0.8. So after then multiplying the cost and the cost overhead, we are going to add what we got from here. So that's how
To obtain
the cost overhead of each price. So of each item, right?
Basically, what this means is that for every item, for every bag of rice, we allocate a charge of one. These are dollars, right? So each bag of rice will add $1.3 as overhead. For each bag of sugar, we'll add $1.6 as cost for overheads. For each bag of corn flour, we'll have $0.50 and for wheat flour, $0.8 as cost for overhead.
So which gives us this is the total cost. 5 sum of 5 and this costs, which give us
6.3.
sorry
6.3.
6.3. Is it in terms of dollars or?
It's dollars.
Yes. Thank you. And what is sum of 6?
7.6.
7.6 dollars. And 2 give us
2.5.
2.5. And what about the wheat flour?
3.8.
3.
3.8.
The total cost, anyone will calculate?
It's not total.
Sorry?
Because that's the old prices.
The total cost, anyone is calculating? $20.2.
Thank you. And understood that costs are the money that businesses spend in making and selling their goods. We've also understood that costing is the method or the approach to calculating full costs, all costs that go into making and selling goods or providing a service. We've reviewed the different types of businesses. We've also looked at the different types of costs and how those different types of costs apply to different businesses. We've understood the importance and use of costing. And we've gone through the process, through the steps of calculating costs for a wholesaler and or retailer. So that brings us to the end of our session. Thank you very much for your participation, your patience. just as we wrap up, if there's any other question or comment as we close this, the floor is open.